Hey YouTube family, how you all doing? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to part 2. We have a keeper and we have a setupper. I'm going to be setting it up. So, as you could tell by the first video, and if you're new here and you haven't watched it, it's linked in the description below. This thing played great out of the box. Just tuned it up, fired off some riffs, and this thing was pretty impressive. However, the action's a little high. Strings are, don't feel very good. They're kind of corroded. And basically, we're going to give this thing a refresh and a full setup and see if there are any issues with it. I'll take you on this setup ride with me, and you guys can point out anything I'm doing wrong. But here's how I do it. I'm not saying this is how you need to do it, but it seems to work pretty good for me. Is what I do 100% correct? No, probably not. But hey, it works, right? So to everyone their own. First thing is we're going to train this thing. So we're going to tune it. We're going to check the relief. We're going to check the action. I'm going to bring the action to where I would like it optimally. We're going to intonate it. And then we're going to check the nut height. But I'm not going to file the nut slot heights until I put the new strings on and double check that everything is good. So, again, that's just how I do it. First thing, check the relief. I leave the top screw on and then I can move this cover out of the way. And then I don't lose anything. And get full access. That is a nice truss rod access route right there. Looks good. Staple at the first fret, like so. Fret the last fret, and then I go right around the 7th or 8th fret, and I just press on that bass string like this. Now you can see, if I can show you, you can physically see that string moving, and from that distance, you shouldn't see that string moving that much. So I'm going to tighten that truss rod, probably a quarter turn, and check it again. Sometimes the D and G strings get in the way, so all I do is I pop this off. Now some of you guys, you're thinking right now, man, you didn't even tune it, you skipped the first step. It was already tuned from the last video, and I had checked it since the last video. We're good. And the little discrepancies in the tension isn't going to make much of a difference. Plus, I'm putting a set of 10s on this, and I'm going to have to recheck all this stuff anyway. This is just, for me, I do the train setup with a new guitar, not so much to set it up, because as you'll see, I'm going to tear it apart, take the neck off, check the pocket, do all this stuff. So some of you will be like, yeah, what a waste of time. No, because the initial train setup identifies any issues that I might have to correct. This truss rod a bit. So these truss rods, I don't know, some friends of mine have these guitars and like they panic. They're like, man, the truss rod's all loose. There's like no tension on it. I put my wrench in, it almost feels like it's unattached. It's okay, this is a dual flex truss rod. It'll tighten and it'll loosen. It'll get tighter as you're loosening it and it'll get tighter as you're tightening it. It's kind of weird. So there is a middle point, like when they build these necks, they make them to a certain specification as far as straightness goes. And if that truss rod is within that spec, there's no tension on it. So yeah, the end is going to be loose. So what I do is I bring it either clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on what I need. Clockwise gives you like a back bow, and counterclockwise gives you like the relief. So I just bring it in whatever direction I need to go until I feel the tension. Even though the neck is good at the neutral position, I just bring it one direction or the other just to feel that there's some kind of a tension on that truss rod screw at the top. That's all. And it, works well. Then you don't have anything like rattling in there, So yeah, perfectly normal. Don't freak out. By adding this capo and by fretting down here, you are now using this string as a straight edge. You've taken the bridge out of the equation, and I've taken the nut out of the equation, right? So now that the string is perfectly flat, resting on the first fret, resting on, the last few frets, then it gives me a good idea of how straight that neck is, right? All right, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but all right, so now, see that? It's like barely any movement there. There is a little bit, and that's what I want. I just want a little bit of movement. So that's T, tuning, which was already done. R, relief. Let's do the action. I like my action at the 0.05 to 0.06, depending on the style of guitar. And I know you guys can probably not see that. Anyway. All right, so here we have, oh, look at that. Here we have 0.05. Man, it's like right there. And on the small E string, we have 0.04. That's pretty low. All right, that's all right. I'm going to leave it like that. That's super low. Intonation. We're going to check to see if we can dial this in with the strings that are on it. Some people use strobe tuners, and those are probably even more accurate. But I use an old Boss TU-12H, and it gives me 2 points of reference. The needle, right, that goes up and down, and it gives me the two lights. So, yeah, it's always worked for me. We'll see. All right. See, this one's sharp. All right, so if the fretted note is sharp, you have to lengthen the string between the nut and the bridge. So we're going to do that. And on these bridges, when the screws are facing the headstock, you turn counterclockwise. And when you do that, when you're moving that saddleback, that's actually going to sharpen the string a bit. So you're going to have to retune before you check. All right, so we're right in the middle. Look at that. All right, that's good. Do the same thing with the B string. Okay, the G string's a little flat. So we're going to move this saddle forward a bit. This means we're going to go clockwise. E string's pretty close. Just the A is a little weird. See, that sounds pretty good. Last thing is nut, and we're just going to check. So what I do, again, very simply, I fret the 3rd fret, and when I fret the 3rd fret, I want to see barely any movement at the 1st fret. Now on this guitar, hope I'm not in your way. See, that E string is moving. So they're all a little bit high. And that's okay, we'll just leave that there. Now I want to see after a train setup if the guitar has any amount of fret buzz. So, yep, hear that? So, 5th fret is fine. So that means the 5th fret is high, right? Because they're buzzing at the 4th. But the 5th fret, they're not. Oh, we got another one here. All right, so we have at least 3 high frets on this. So now I know what to look out for. So some of you are thinking, oh man, WestCreek, it's got some inconsistent frets, man. I don't think I want to buy that. You know what? Doesn't matter what you buy. If it's never been set up and it's coming from the factory, it's going to have some issues. I work on Fenders and Gibsons, Ibanez's. What else did I work on a while back? Oh, a Dean guitar. That thing was a mess. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the name on the headstock. If it hasn't been set up, carefully, it's going to have issues. At the warehouse, the workers who are doing the fret job, their passion in life is probably not leveling frets, right? So they just do the job. independently of the neck angle or whatever, if the pocket's good or not. That's not their department. That's someone else's department. Has that been checked? I don't know, right? So this is nothing. I'm going to check those frets, and we're going to fix them, and we're going to crown them, polish them, and you're never going to know. All right, got to flip the guitar over. Oh, and look, pulling the strings out, we lost one ferrule. Yep, that happens. Other ones are nice and solid. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little bit of number 10 glue right in that lip. You can see there's a little edge there, right? Like a little lip. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue there, put that ferrule in, and won't have to worry about it. There we go. Wow, that was a big job. All right. Now, just to avoid future problems, while we have the guitar on the bench, we are going to tighten everything up. Strap buttons. It's nice and snug. And this upper one, it's always good to check. And then take a small screwdriver. Going to tighten all these little screws. Make sure they're all snug. Not loose, but they did have to be seated. All right, I'm going to flip the guitar around and stay at the headstock for a minute. And tighten the tuner buttons up. I find they're always a little bit sloppy. I like mine a little bit on the tight side, actually. Perfect. And then the last thing you want to do, take a 10mm socket. I also have, a wrench. So, and you're just going to tweak these. Make sure they're nice and snug. Every time you change strings on a guitar, you should check this stuff. Check the nut, it's nice and stable. Sometimes, these nuts will fall right off once they got no strings. And we'll move back down here. I don't know if you noticed, but I flipped the guitar over a couple times and that bridge didn't just fall out. So that means it's pretty tight. It's good. Oh, this one has lettering on the bottom. It says KD2. I'm not sure what that means, but if you guys know, you can post in the comments. Nice little bridge. There's a little bit of weight to it. That's good. And these are a little bit loose. So we're going to take them out. To snug these up, I just used some plumber's tape. Now, some people say don't use plumber's tape. You're going to kill the ground between the sleeve and the bolt and what the bridge lies on. And so use, copper shielding tape. But you know what? I've tried copper shielding tape on these things and it just makes a total mess when you put that in there. And I hate it. This stuff is silky smooth. It threads in nice and it's so thin that, as the threads are going through, it cuts through this material anyway. It is making contact. I have not had an issue with using this, but it does do a great job of snugging up your pegs. There you go, it gives you something like that. And I put these guys back in. And it threads in nice. And look at that. There's like no play. Perfect. Now we'll just put this back on, make sure. Awesome. Like a glove. This switch is oriented correctly, but we are just going to snug it up. We got these pliers that have no teeth on the tips. So I'm just going to grab this little ring here. And that's nice and tight, so I don't have to worry about it. Take these off. In case you're wondering, it's a 2mm Allen wrench. These are metal knobs. Some good weight to them. All right, and then 12mm socket. If the whole pot's turning underneath, you're going to feel it. So if you don't feel that anything is seating, then stop and open up the cavity and check. And speaking of opening up the cavity, we're going to do that right now so we can see what's in here. Nice. Oh, we got some wires in there. Okay. Let's have a closer look, shall we? All nicely zip tied. Looks like we have 3 full-size pots. They are unmarked. Soldering looks really nice. They are 4-wire pickups, and the white and red are taped off. So if you did want to install split pots so you could split the coils, you definitely could. And there's lots of room in here. This is not shielding paint. But we do have an American style 3-way toggle switch in there. And it feels good. It's not like a box switch. And these solder joints are excellent. They look great. They do, however, shield the back of their covers. Well, let's check out this neck pocket. We're definitely drilling into the body. This one isn't. There's always one hole that's a little bigger, and I think that is their indexing hole for their CNC machine. The other 3 are really binding into the body. Wasn't really an issue on this guitar as far as neck adjustment goes, but if you have no play in these screws, you can't make those micro adjustments to your neck to get perfect string alignment. So I'm going to drill those out. Okay. Neck heel. Nice and clean. No burrs. Huh. Not bad at all, actually. Okay, we'll move that aside for now. And here's what we really wanted to see. So there's no shim. Nice pocket in there. And you would almost think that, that's a recessed area, but it's not. It's nice and smooth. Perfectly smooth, actually. Here's the entry point, but that they drilled to run the wires to the control cavity. Very clean. Nicely done. Not a whole lot of sawdust in there. Seen a lot worse. 7/32 size drill bit. Right, now those screws will have a little bit of wiggle room. So if I need to tweak that neck, once we restring, we'll be all good. So just got to get a vacuum cleaner, clean that up, and get the sawdust off the floor, and my socks, and I'll be right back. So there you go. Look at that neck pocket. Nice and smooth. And ready for reassembly. Check these frets. Make sure they're nice and level. And when you pass your hand on the back of your neck, if you feel any sprouting, I just take a little file like this. I got on Timo, actually. It says Muspor, M-U-S-P-O-R. And I just use that, and I lightly go over where the holes are until I feel that there's no resistance. Okay, so first thing, I'm just going to check all the ends of these frets, right, all the way down the neck. Make sure there are no visible gaps that would indicate a high fret. And on this side, everything is good. Check the treble side. And you will see it if there's one that's, really separated. I like to get eye level when I'm doing this. So this is going to be 24 3/4. And we have some rocking. Still got some rocking. Okay. Good. All right, we got a clacker. You're always doing 3 frets at a time, right? So I'm doing 1, 2, 3, and then 2, 3, 4, and right, it's clacking, so I know 3 is high. So now I can't do 3, 4, and 5 because 3 is high. Skip to the next 3 and just keep going and look. All right, so we have about 3/4 of the fret, so it's high on this end. And again, I'm going to skip. Very, very minor on the end over here. And this one's good. Those are good. So all we have is about 2 half frets and one end. That's a little bit high. However, because of the nature of this guitar, and it's probably a guitar you want to be able to play fast on, I am going to do a drop off from fret 13 all the way down to 22. And no, I don't tape up a fretboard to do any crowning. It's just a waste of time. This never comes in contact with the board unless your frets are really, really low, and in that case, you have to reassess. All right, let's check this again. This one's good. And this one's good. So then I use my good crowning file, and I will just crown that edge. Just like that. Got to figure out what radius this board is. So this neck has a 12 to 14 radius. I take my 12 here, and I go up here. I'll shut the light off. I shine this flashlight on. Go right here. You can see there's like no light shining through. Okay. Now, if I go down here, and you can see some light shining through the bottom. So if I go to a 14, it should be right here. Now that light is gone. So I have a couple of these radius sanding blocks. So from Geiker, this is a 14 radius, and this is 10. So both sides have a different one. And I have another one that's 12 and 16. So just going to take some 400 grit sandpaper that's got a sticky backside. Put this on here like so. Perfect. And there we go. To keep that 14 radius the same, I just want to take a little bit of meat off of these frets so that they step down and I can lower the action on that guitar. So now, I don't know if you guys can see that. Do you see the fine line down the middle of that fret as opposed to the other ones that are all blue? See that? Now we know that we are crowned. Last one. All right. Can you see those nice little pencil lines? There we go. Now some of you are like, I can't believe you didn't tape your fretboard up to do all that. There's not a scratch on it, people. Not a scratch. Nothing comes in contact with it unless you totally go off the rails and run your file off the fret onto your fretboard, but I don't think a piece of tape would help save that anyway. So it's all good. Now comes the time for taping, and I could do that, but I don't want to tape because it takes too much time. So I'm just going to use this. It's a fret shield. There you go. I'm taped. All right, we're at 2,000. It's coming. And we're at the steel wool phase. Go. How do you like those? Like a mirror. Check out that fretboard. It just drank up the oil. Wow. Look at the grain on that. It's beautiful. Okay, just in the process of restringing. And I just ran my 2 E strings to see how we're doing with the alignment. And I can see here that I'm a little off. I'm a little on the base side. So I'm going to loosen these neck screws. And now that I have some adjustability, I'm going to straighten up those strings. We are good. I'm going to snip those off and start the train process. All right, well, the high voltage is done. Strings are nice and lined up all the way up the neck. Nut slot heights are perfect. Tuners are nice and tight, no slop on them whatsoever. Action is super low, I don't know if you can see that. Pickup heights have been adjusted. It's worked out great. So, the new strings on, we'll give her a little rip, see what it sounds like. Middle position. awesome, man. These are great. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, Ted, I wish it had a different body style because I would have a lot of fun with this. It would just look a little weird at the Legion with, you know, my 3-piece band. But this thing plays like butter, man. You guys let me know what you think of these things. And I hope my approach to setting up a guitar maybe will help you with yours. But again, that's just what I do. You don't have to do that. But it works for me. What works for me may not work for you. Anyway, that's it for me. You guys take care. God bless. Keep rocking your 6-string. Clearly, it doesn't matter what the name is on the headstock. If you like it, it's a good guitar. And you know what? I like this. It's cool. But don't tell my tellies I said that.